Welcome to the More Than Anxiety podcast. I'm Megan DeVito, and I'm the life coach for stressed out and anxious women who want more out of life. I'm here to help you create a life you love to live where anxiety isn't holding you back. Get ready for a lighthearted approach to managing anxiety through actionable steps, a lot of truth talk, and inspiration to take action so you walk away feeling confident, calm, and ready to live. Let's get to it. Hey there. Welcome to episode 88 of the More Than Anxiety podcast. This week, I want to introduce you to Jemma Blythe. Jemma is a life coach. She lives in the UK, and she works with a variety of different people who struggle with imperfection or perfection, as she would call it. Jemma has a quote that she likes to share with people where she says, "Embrace your imperfections, become empowered to be unique." We have a really great conversation to share with you this week, all about how you can accept who you are, how your body is, and really feel confident and excited about what you bring to the world. We're going to talk about PCOS. We're going to talk about ADHD, about being perfect, and about really loving yourself through journaling. This is going to be a great one. Enjoy the episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 88 of the More Than Anxiety podcast. I'm so excited to have you back again this week, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on a podcast platform. I have a great interview to share with you today with Jemma Blythe. She is going to talk about being perfect and how you don't need to do that at all. So, Jemma, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. Can you introduce yourself? Tell everyone about yourself and what you do.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm a life coach from the UK, and I have basically struggled with imperfections like my PCOS diagnosis and CPTSD, generalized anxiety disorder. You name it, I've had it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So all of these different things and different situations or medical diagnoses in your life, and they feel like imperfections. Okay. So was this something that you've been dealing with since you said CPTSD? So I'm wondering, like, this started back when you were a child, or is that part of your story? Tell me how these things come together. I like all the twists and turns and how these things that so many people and so many of the people who listen to this podcast are dealing absolutely with anxiety. But what about PCOS? What about everything else? Tell me more.
So in my late teens, early 20s, I started to get really short stabbing pains in my stomach.
Mm.
And I'd always struggled with like irregular periods since I was probably early teens, something like that. And I thought, okay, maybe this is normal for me. But then when I started to get towards like 18, 19, they still hadn't leveled out. And by this point, I was like skipping my period for like 6 months.
Mm.
And at that time, I was in a really rocky relationship. So I thought maybe it's down to that. Maybe it's stress, putting my hormones out of whack. But then I went to the doctor and they sent me for some tests. And the test took, I want to say, about 18 months. So during that time, I went into A&E, I think once over here.
Okay.
And they prescribed me Buscopan for like irritable bowel syndrome, which is, of course, was nothing like what I was going through. And then they put me on birth control to regulate my periods because that just seems to be the easiest thing to do.
Doesn't it?
So, yeah. And then from there on, I went down like the holistic route, doing a lot of yoga, that kind of thing. But of course, if you lose your concentration like I do, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. And I have so many questions already just because I think as women, and you read about it all the time on social media, or you hear about it, you go to coffee with your friends and everybody has a story about, I don't know, the doctor told me not to worry about it. And so here you are showing up as still really, as a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, you're young. No one's it's like this giant club that we all got born into, and there's a secret code that nobody ever teaches you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, is this normal? Maybe. Is it not? Maybe. We don't know. But then and then when you go to address it and you're told, oh, here's some medicine, see what's up with this.
Yeah.
Come on. So here you are in the middle of this. Tell me more.
It just seems to be the easiest answer. Like, throw medicine at it. Here's some
Yeah.
tablets, take those.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
that's not the easy thing. You need to be tackling what you're taking tablets for.
Hmm.
But yeah, it just seems to be one big black hole where PCOS and other women's health conditions goes down and nothing's ever done about it. It's just
Hmm.
dusted over and covered back up again with a carpet.
Yeah. Someone asked me again. I think I spend way too much time on social media. But there was another thing that I saw the other day. And the question was, how many of your mothers talk to you about menopause?
Mm.
And everybody was like, no, 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 no. And I have been like, okay, mom, listen to me. Is this normal? And she's like, oh, everything's normal and nothing is normal. So I've been lucky enough to have really good conversations. But I think unless we do have mothers or sisters or grandmothers who can kind of tell us that's not normal, we just assume everything is because it does get brushed under the rug.
Yeah,
And that can cause a lot of anxiousness and feeling like, well, obviously I'm messed up.
yeah.
And I've talked a lot on this podcast about hormones and how wicked they are with anxiety. So, how did you handle all of this?
I basically started journaling right from an early age because I thought, why should I feel left out? Why should I be the one that's not getting treatment or anything like that and sitting back and waiting for things to happen? My impatience kicked in and I started to want to do things for me. So I journaled, I changed the way I ate as much as I could,
Yeah.
while still enjoying my food, um, and just tried to be a bit happier with that. And for
A
any,
lot. That's stuff that people are like, I have no idea how that would ever happen. That is so good.
yeah, it's just the way that I found that I knew how. Um, and I mean, then I started looking online and things like that. And it's like only me and my mum here now. So when I got diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, that was put down to the fact of it's just me and my mum, my dad having passed away quite a number of years ago. So it was put down to that. Um, and to some degree, I disagree with that. Yeah, that
Mm.
played a part, but there's so much else going on in our brains and certainly in mine that just gets forgotten because people have these big milestones in their life, like losing a parent, losing grandparents, and then things that are going on just get lost and forgotten because there's just nobody there to answer those questions that they've
Yeah.
got of is that normal?
Yeah, for sure. So you had lost your dad, and of course, that's, grief and anxiety and sadness and all of those things just get all knotted up in our nervous system would be the best way I could
Yeah.
describe it. But in the meantime, you also have this PCOS diagnosis that no one's really talking about. So you said, I don't think it was all grief because you had so much else going on. Do you feel that the PCOS was playing a part in that? Like how did it related to you feeling anxious?
Yeah, I think so because I was having so many other symptoms, like heavy periods some months, really painful periods the next month,
Mhm.
then other months just nothing. So I think certainly when I was in school and things like that, I was terrified about bleeding through my clothes,
Oh, yeah.
and being that girl, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and that was always such a big worry to me. So I was never comfortable at school.
Yeah.
I was always the kid that was just shoved to the back and forgotten about. Um, so sometimes I would struggle with my work and there would be no help. So again, me being me, got back and straight into doing my own research, my own revision, my own
Yeah.
learning. And that's never stopped, to be honest. Which is another reason why I wanted to be a life coach and why I wanted to help other women.
I
Because,
love that just like jumping in, you're like, fine, I'll handle it myself,
yeah,
which is such a great trait, but we also know it's one of those traits that it does come from some sort of trauma, right?
yeah, 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 definitely.
Yeah. So
Um,
being able to jump in for yourself, and then you said, okay, I'm going to be a life coach.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. I wanted to
How did,
help. As soon as I knew about life coaching, I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to
Mhm.
show other women and other people that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You haven't got to let every obstacle get in your way.
Mhm.
I mean, back then I was surrounded by really powerful adult figures. I had friends all around me that were older and adult, and I had, I think, one friend my own age. Um, but came with that came a whole load of opinions and thoughts of what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing, and this, that, and the other. And I stuck with it for a while. And then I thought, well, hang on, I'm losing myself. Why am I losing myself?
Yeah.
And I thought, because I'm listening to other people and letting other people's thoughts get in my head. And that was keeping me so small that it was damaging my confidence
Yeah.
and not allowing me to just breathe.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was always told, like, don't touch this, don't touch that, stay quiet, don't do this. The one time I think at school, I had the nerve to shout. And I think I was on break, and a teacher came over and told me to shut up. So that, for
Oh, no.
like 14-year-old me, was just like, don't say anything.
Be a good girl.
Yeah. And now when I look back, I want to strangle that person
Yes.
because
As a former teacher, I kind of want to strangle her too.
because it made me feel so small and so insignificant.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm normally quiet. Like the one time where I'm
Right.
noisy, loud, I get picked up on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this, just this is noticing that what is going on here, and then having that realization that, oh, this is because I'm doing what everyone else thinks I should do. Um,
Yeah.
I also was one of the people where I'm like, it's funny. My mom will tell you that I've always been an arm's length, like a pushback person, which is so funny because um, some people would be like, oh, there's like hidden trauma. And I'm like, literally none. It's almost just like me having this thing where if I don't do what everybody else does, then I
Mhm.
don't have to fit in and I'm doing it on purpose. So it's me controlling, oh, I'm not going to fit in, or feeling like feeling probably a lot like I didn't fit in when I was little, just
Yeah.
because I don't know, I don't even know. I thought I was different, but hindsight, I probably wasn't. But always being like, if everyone else is doing it, then no. Like I very much, and I still feel that resistance in myself all the time where it would be like, everyone's doing this. And I'm like, well, I'm not, which
No.
is so, I mean, it's probably, there's probably something going on there, but it is great that you did that and that you said, oh, wait a second. life
Mm.
coaching. I had this conversation yesterday with someone that I worked with that we said that she and I are both late 40s
Mm.
and talking about some of these kids are going to get eaten alive. Like you have to be willing to do things that you don't like and that you are uncomfortable with. And they're like, I don't like that. I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, you're going down. Like if there's ever a plague or a thing, a zombie apocalypse, I'm like, you guys are all going to die and it's just going to be us old people left
Yeah.
because I feel like there's so much like, oh, it's too scary. It's too hard. I have all these thoughts. This is like, I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect. But
Yeah.
you said, oh, wait a minute. I can change this for myself. I wish everybody understood that. I think that is such a great message that you have. Like, you don't have to be perfect and you don't have to do it right. You just have to decide that you're going to make changes. Tell me about how you're coaching with imperfection and on perfection or however you do that. Tell me how that works for you.
So, any obstacles people have, I always get them to write them out and then flip it.
Mm.
So, as if somebody says, no, you can't do that. And if that gets into your head like it normally does and irritates you so much that you just don't do what they said,
Mm.
write it down and then write down why you don't do that.
Yeah.
And then consider what would happen if you did do that. Because it's important, I think, for us all to recognize that perfection keeps us so small that we chase after perfection so often because of either schoolwork, housework, relationships, things like that, that it's almost like this myth that we chase after. Why? When we can just be ourselves with slight imperfections along the way, which make us perfect in our own eyes. I think it's important to recognize that we have imperfections in our social lives, in our relationships, but those are what makes them ours. And it wouldn't be our social life or our relationships without the imperfections.
Yeah.
So, imperfections, I believe, are there to be embraced and
Yeah.
not pushed away. Because if you push away those imperfections, you push away the characteristics and your personality along the way. So that's what I try and teach, I suppose, because it's important. Like our lives are like a patchwork quilt. Nothing is perfect. Nothing
Yeah.
fits in. But that's imperfect, but it's perfect to us.
Yes.
But
I
yeah,
love,
so
yeah.
that's my idea behind imperfectly perfect.
I think it's great. And with this idea that we're all supposed to be perfect, and we see so much of this on social media with influencers and people only showing you their highlight reel and everything that's so great. Like, look how clean my house is. And
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't think that's a real house. Like, you don't have dogs or kids or dirt or dust or anything, you don't open your windows. Um, but we see that and we think that's the way it's supposed to be. I called this Martha Stewart syndrome for a really long time, where there was this beautiful kitchen with this perfect food and there wasn't anything anywhere. And then I was like, wait a minute, that is staged for a photo shoot. But you have to remind yourself of that. And really, just the idea that if everybody was that way,
Mhm.
we would never have anything unique about ourselves. And it's really our uniqueness that we need. Everyone has I have this, I bring this up almost every single episode that everyone has a gift, everyone has a uniqueness, everyone has a reason that they were created and that they are here. And we need everybody living entirely differently and doing things crazy and different and certainly not perfect because that's how things change and that's how we make progress. And just the fact that you can bring that to the world and say, wait a second, imperfect. This is exactly perfect. Like, this is what we need. I don't want any more of this like fake stuff. The whole social media is fake thing right now. I love it because I'm like, yes, it is. We're all telling you what the ideal is, but it's all based on what we think the ideal is. My
Yeah,
ideal is certainly not somebody else's ideal. My daughter, my 15-year-old, tells me every day that my ideas are dumps. So,
I love that.
so yeah, we're just not on the same wavelength, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, like, take my own room at the moment. I've got like piles of paperwork up at the side of me that I haven't been bothered to go through, to be quite honest, because my brain just goes, nope, you're not doing that today.
No.
And I just think, well, that's clearly not what I'm meant to do. So, yeah, it's imperfect, but in my eyes, it's perfect because it's not
Hmm.
what I should be doing.
Hmm.
And then, like, I was talking with one of my friends about social media and about Instagram. And she said, I love the idea of Instagram being the way that it used to be, whereas, like, we all used to share different things from our lives and nothing had to be perfect. Nothing had to have like a visual filter over it and whatever. And then, like, now everything's Instagram versus reality.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, it should be reality versus reality because there's nothing. I said we're the same person,
Hmm.
whether we're on social media or in real life, we're the same person.
Hmm.
So why separate that? I said
Yeah.
that's not right when you think about it because
Yeah,
it's
and it was Instagram for a reason because it used to be, I think for anybody who is too young to remember this, Instagram used to be like a picture that you took on the fly. Like post this picture of what you're doing right now, like just for fun,
yeah,
which I mean, and now we have, location mapping. There's all kinds of reasons that maybe that's not the best idea now. But when it came out, it really was, hey, this is my life right now in this moment. My kid is
hmm
crying. There's a mess all over the kitchen, and I'm trying to work from home, and I can't get anything done. So this is my life right now. And it
yeah,
wasn't like, let me set this all up and be beautiful with my clean computer and my perfect cup of coffee with like the foam design. I would love to be able to make those.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything's a stock photo.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, the only time that I would ever use stock photos are in my newsletters and things like that to make them look a little bit better. But that's the only time that I would ever use them because I'm thinking, well, what kind of a life coach would I be if I was putting things out there that was like over edited and this, that, and the other? And it takes me ages to do a transition on a reel. Just one transition.
Me
But
too.
I love it because otherwise I wouldn't have like the load of outtakes that I can use for other reels that maybe don't have the same message.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, my thing is just make life a load of outtakes because that's what life is.
it is. And
It's
that's how we grow.
yeah, yeah.
It is funny. Another thing that now that we're on this social media tangent that I've seen so recently that I can feel myself wrestling with is the idea of I think there's benefits to this, but I also think that it could get sticky really quickly. And that is everyone self diagnosing, me included. I'll be like, oh my gosh, look at this. I've got this thing. And how, if we look at things like certainly autism, yes. I mean, it is a wide spectrum. I mean, you can have, I truly believe that everyone has at least one autistic trait because I think that's just human brain function. But then you can also be severe and profound, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a spectrum for a reason. But all of these people that are just like striving for a diagnosis. And my question always is, and maybe this is my neurolinguistic programming stuff, but like, why do you need that? Like, what is it about that sticker that you want? Yes, because you get to know what's actually going on. And I think there's some value in that in creating systems that help you. But I see so many people using it as a crutch or
Mhm.
as an excuse to be like, oh, well, I can't do that because I have this one thing where I'm like, well, that one thing could actually give you the tools that you need to be able to say, yes, I have this, and this is a hiccup for me, and I'm creating these systems, I'm creating these, these resources or these habits to help me be able to say, oh yeah, my brain does this, so instead I need to do it this way. Whereas it's like I can't because I have this, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you could say the same thing about me because I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD yet.
Oh, me neither.
Um,
But 100%.
it's something that I've always had in the background. And as soon it was one of those things where somebody said ADHD to me. I was at work, I think, last year. Yeah, last year. Somebody mentioned in passing, have you got ADHD? And I was like, well, I don't know, because I've never had that conversation. Um, and I went away, looked at like the symptoms and everything, and I'm thinking, that's me on paper.
Yeah.
And everything just went, ding, it
Yeah.
makes sense. But for me, I love being able to recognize the problems that I have and then create other ways of dealing with those problems.
Yes.
So rather than fighting against it, which I believe could make it worse anyway, I prefer to work with it and think, well, if I can't do that today, it's not a big deal. I won't beat myself up about things. I spent ages beating myself up about things in my childhood and in my teenage years when I was diagnosed with PCOS and everything else that they put on me because I thought, well, what's the point? And then I thought, no, I can fight against this. I can change it. So that's always been my theory around things like that. Things can be changed and worked with instead of working against and fighting against
Mhm.
because it creates a lot of internal struggle when you do that and it's not worth it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about when you are working with a client, a coaching client, and they come to you for perfection. They're struggling with trying to be perfect in some area of their life. What is I know your message is really that we have to embrace this imperfection. We have to learn how to run with it and make it be something that empowers you. How do you move them from saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not perfect enough, I'm a hot mess, whatever they say, to a place where they are using those imperfections as power?
I ask them to think back to their small achievements, like smallest of small achievements, and then write down the qualities that they possessed while they made those achievements. And I ask them to build up on those qualities. The more we focus on our positive qualities, the more we can use those to embody ourselves later on. And then that can be used as almost like building blocks. So you lay the foundations, then you build the bricks,
Mhm.
and then you can build up so then you can protect yourself against the opinions coming in and against yourself, even when you have those negative thoughts. I
Mhm.
mean, when I have negative thoughts, the first thing that I do is I write down what I achieved, when I achieved it, and then I write down the qualities that I possessed at that time, just so then I can look back on that.
Oh, good.
And
I love that.
everybody can relate to that because everybody has done something that they're proud of. It
Yes.
doesn't matter what you've done that you're proud of, you've done something that you can then change into something positive that you can use later on.
Mhm.
I mean, when I was going through therapy, a lot of the things that came up for me were ADHD related.
Mm.
I didn't recognize that until I sat down with my own thoughts and my own journal. And I was reading my journal and I'm thinking, that's me. That's what he's just diagnosed.
Yeah.
But without those thoughts and without going back over what I'd already written, I wouldn't have that. I'd still be
I-
at the crossroads.
yeah. And I'm so glad that you go back and read your journal because I have stacks of journals that I've filled up. And I think it's so powerful in that place. I mean, And I know some people love to do it on their phone, but for me, I want colored pens and paper. Like
Mhm.
there's that connection between that mind body connection when you're really actually writing it down. If you are a journaler that's journaling on your computer, I'm going to challenge you after you listen to this episode to just get yourself I mean, I don't care if you just go buy a spiral bound notebook or a really pretty journal and some
Mhm.
colorful pens and see what happens when you move it to paper. Because as a former teacher, I will tell you that my students, I want them to take notes on paper. I want them to use color. I want them to draw. That connection and the way it solidifies things and opens things up inside of your brain when you're actually writing it out is profoundly different than when you're hammering away on a keyboard. You'll remember it better. You'll open your brain up to new thoughts. So the fact that you're writing it down, first of all, journaling is so good, but
Mhm.
that you go back and read it, this was the one thing that when people say what got me, so my backstory is a lot of years of really intense health anxiety. And one of the things that got me to a point where I was like, wait a minute, was something as simple as writing down, pretty sure I have cancer. These are my symptoms. This is where I felt it and what it felt like. And I was actually recording all of these thoughts to try to show my doctor how long ago, like, when did this start? 'Cause, they ask you that. And I'm like, I don't know. And I would notice that as I would go back and read, I'd be like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Mhm.
I felt the same way a million times. I'm not any sicker. And
Mhm.
now I think it's something different. And my journaling helped prove myself wrong. But it also, as it's progressed, as I've changed how I journaled, I'm no longer journaling that way. But just being able to see, oh, look how much that thought has changed. And just intentionally changing your thought from, I'm not perfect enough,
Mhm.
to look at these things that I'm actually doing. I'm learning, my brain is changing, which is really what we're doing as coaches, is helping people change their brains
Yeah, yeah,
on purpose.
yeah. I mean, a lot of what I do, certainly in like the newsletter on a Monday when that goes out, I've got a list of journal prompts on there and they
Yeah.
change weekly. So there's about 4 journal prompts that I include every week. Last week was a bit different because I got people to think about their future selves and where they wanted to be, because we don't very often focus on that question. Whenever we do, we focus on the blocks and the imperfections that stop us from getting there.
Mhm.
But it's about empowering yourself and getting over that and using the techniques of working out what you're proud of, using those feelings at the time, and putting that all together and creating your future, but written down for you.
Yeah.
Um,
There's so
that,
much power in that statement about creating your future instead of just letting it happen and hoping that you make it through.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't get anywhere by sitting back, and it would be lovely if we did.
Right.
But that real power is using the inner work that we can do on ourselves
Mhm.
to make sure that we get to where we want to be.
Mhm.
And a lot of the time, that means pushing people away that hold negativity towards you or have those negative thoughts towards you, because you don't need that. Life's too
Mhm.
short to have that anywhere near you.
Yes. Yeah.
um, so that's why I include the journaling prompts, because that's so important to me and has been so important to me since I was young.
I think that's fantastic. I love that. I might have to start thinking of some journal prompts to help people because I do it and I tell people to do it, but sometimes getting started journaling is hard. Like, what do I write? It's so cute. Like I really started journaling because my grandmother journaled and she would write down like what she ate for dinner and what the weather was like outside or the price of corn or something like that. I mean, she was a farmer's wife and she would keep down to like farm things and made a new recipe or went to church and it was 70 degrees. And I noticed that I do these same things because I thought it was so adorable that for years and years and years, I mean, I could probably go back to like 1981 if I could find her journal and be like, on this day in 1981, the temperature was this, and this is what my grandma ate for dinner.
Oh, I love that.
Very unimportant. But to me, I was like, oh, I mean, that was kind of inspiring, which is
Yeah,
silly, but I
yeah.
love that.
I mean, that's another thing. Journals haven't got to follow any pattern.
No.
They can be different. And
Hmm.
they can be like just what you did yesterday or things like that. But the key thing is going back and noticing the patterns, if there are any patterns there, noticing them. So then you've got them later on for if somebody asks you, like your doctor or your counselor or something like that. So then you can hand over the evidence of this is what I've got. These are the symptoms I had. You tell me what I'm struggling with.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
then they can't give you the easy way out.
Here's a pill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate that phrase.
Yeah. Yes, I know. And and so many things, so much of medicine now is just like, well, we can make you feel better. And I'm like, no, I want you to like get to the bottom of it. And I think that I think we are moving in a direction, at least in the States, we're moving in a direction where people are starting to really ask for that. But like, yes, and I don't want my back to hurt anymore, but why does my back hurt? And what do we have to do to make it not hurt besides take this pill? Like, what can I do to, is this a movement issue? Is this a surgery issue? Like, what is causing this so that I can actually heal my body? And I think that's such a big thing. And knowing that you can heal your body, but also that you can heal what you think. You don't have to think
No,
the way you do.
no, no, you don't. Things can, even when you make a small decision, it might be small at the time, but it can change your pathway
Yeah.
completely into the future. And that for me is exciting. I used to be so terrified of that, but now I'm using the right techniques and introducing what should be imperfect, but turning it into a perfect.
Mhm.
That to me is exciting now.
It's powerful and it's hopeful.
Yeah,
There's so much hope in that.
yeah.
Yeah, when
I
you don't
mean,
walk around feeling like nothing's right and you have this hope of saying, oh my gosh, this is exactly the way I'm supposed to be.
yeah. I mean, the other day I shared a reel of my PCOS symptoms on Instagram.
Mhm.
I didn't call them PCOS symptoms. I called them imperfectly perfects
Mhm.
because without them, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Huh.
I'd be somebody completely different. And who knows if I'd be happier? Probably not, because I wouldn't have met the people around me who I met, because life would be completely different.
Mhm. Yeah,
But yeah,
that radical acceptance is kind of it's been coming out of my mouth or coming into my head so much just in the last couple of weeks, just radical acceptance of, okay, this is where we are.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, the more you fight against it, the more harm you do yourself because it's not nice to get into that place that's all tense and twisty inside. It feels awful.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's just easier to either journal it, talk to a friend about it, because only then can you begin acceptance of who you are. And a lot of the time, people fight against that because they don't feel like they can connect to people. But in this day and age, you've got people online, you've got support groups, use them. If you can't use your journal, use people online, use the support groups. Just as long as you're recognizing how you're feeling and you're turning your thoughts inward to check in on yourself.
Mhm.
That's the most important thing
Mhm.
because there's so much of this checking in on each other and checking in on friends and things like that. If you haven't got that close knit network, you need to be able to check in on yourself
Mhm.
and notice how you're feeling and
Mhm.
why. And if it's not great, write down something positive. Go back to your different affirmations, go back to your positive characteristics that you've got and look at them.
Mhm.
And sometimes repeat them in the mirror. I know that sounds stupid, But
It
sometimes
feels
it
really
can,
awkward too, doesn't it?
yeah,
But yeah, you're like, oh, I don't know. I hope nobody walks in and sees me doing this.
yeah, but it can be the most simplest thing to do, and it helps.
Yeah,
As difficult and as, yeah, cringy as it may feel, it helps.
it does. Do you listen to Mel Robbins
Yes, I do.
and her high five, like the high five in the mirror thing?
Yeah,
It's so
that's
weird. But it works.
it does.
Yeah,
It's so powerful.
yeah.
And it's powerful for a reason because it blooming works.
Hmm. It does. And it is very awkward and a little cringy. I have this when I have someone who I'm coaching that's working through different issues, and we do this exercise where I'm like, you need to have a full-on conversation, like eye contact with yourself in the mirror. And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. I'm like, we're going to keep doing this until you make yourself cry because that's how we know when it worked. As soon as you can say something that hits so deep that you've made yourself cry, I'm like, now we're open.
Yeah,
Now let's do the dirt work. Like, let's get in the dirt and
yeah,
see what we can work out. But yeah, it is powerful.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is just having that deeper connection with yourself.
Hmm.
It's sometimes all that's needed.
Hmm.
I mean, like when I was talking to my therapist, talking to him was good, but I needed something deeper. And yeah, he helped me massively with my CPTSD, which is
Hmm.
something that I never thought was possible.
Hmm.
But that filled in the gap between me journaling and me actually needing some help.
Hmm.
So I think that's important to recognize when you're struggling with your mental health and things like that. It's important to recognize when you do need help
Yes.
because journaling is brilliant. Journaling can fill in the cracks. But when those cracks appear bigger, and this is why you also need to journal, to recognize when the cracks are appearing bigger, because then you'll know when you need help. And it's not something to be ashamed of. Needing
No.
help is never something to be ashamed of
Yeah,
because everybody needs help at least once in their lives.
for sure.
Um, because that's another thing as well with being like a life coach and things like that. I've noticed when people need help when they've seen me,
Hmm.
and I'm not a medical professional, but I can point you in the right direction.
Yes. That is so important for everyone to hear right now. Uh, we're not going to try to diagnose you
Yeah,
as coaches, and we are going to get you to somebody who can. If this is not a coaching issue, if this is bigger, if you are a danger to yourself or to someone else, we're going to send you to the person who you need to go to. We'll help
absolutely.
you with do the like, we're going to help fill in the cracks for sure
Yeah,
and stretch you and get you to think differently. But when it comes to diagnoses and really being safe inside your own body, we will help you find someone that can do that. But please don't ask us as coaches to do that.
I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
But yeah, I think that's so important. Like, and that's why the relationship with your inner self needs to be as good as it can be,
Yes.
because you're the person that knows your body inside and out. Nobody else does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how you recognize when something's wrong, when something's not quite right.
Yeah. That's so true. So how do people find you? People who are feeling like, oh, I can't do anything right. I'm always messing up. Nothing is ever perfect enough. Where do they find you? How do they contact you? How can they get your newsletter, work with you?
So I am on Instagram primarily at gemma.e.blythe. From there, you'll be able to click the link in my bio and find my newsletter.
Great.
And you can always send me a DM on Instagram and we can sort something out with working together.
Great. And I will make sure to include the link to your Instagram in there so that they can check that out and get in contact with you and get your newsletter. And go out and buy yourself a notebook or pens or a journal and get her newsletter, because she's going to send you the prompts that you need so that you
And
can stop trying to be a perfectionist.
yeah, and not only that, but when you subscribe, you get a free wellness workbook,
Ooh,
which
okay,
goes
that's fun.
through the different ways to accept your imperfections too.
Oh, that's so
So
fun.
there's a whole process
I think that is
from
amazing.
goal setting to then accepting, and you actually create an action plan as well.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's
Like a
completely
whole
free.
coaching toolkit. Amazing.
I
Very
wanted to do that. So then when people sign up, they get something back
Yeah.
immediately. So it's something that they can refer back to as well as like a stepping
Beautiful.
stone between nothing and a journal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sometimes really having those scripted questions to start out with gets you in that mode. So that's great.
Yeah.
Jemma, thank you so much for joining me. And it has been a pleasure to talk with you. Definitely give her a follow on Instagram. And I will link all of those things in the show notes and then in the section on YouTube where everybody can find you. I hope you get tons of followers. I hope you guys really go through the workbook that she offers. Take time and think. I know it can feel like slowing down and stopping. And that's really what it's about, is slowing down, pressing pause, and looking at what needs to happen. So Jemma has a ton of great resources, and I so enjoyed this conversation today. Thank you for joining me.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we'll talk soon.
Definitely.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the More Than Anxiety podcast. Before you go, be sure to subscribe and leave a review so others can easily find this resource as well. And of course, if you're ready to feel more relaxed, have more energy, more confidence, and a lot more fun, you can go to the show notes, click the link, and talk to me about coaching. Talk to you soon.